What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is August 24th of 2018. Well, folks, today I want to spend a decent amount of time to talk to you all and probably do what I do best, and that is to provide a big picture view in regards to the cryptocurrency space. Today I want to talk about three major macro trends that are currently going on in cryptocurrencies, either directly or indirectly. These major trends have to do with shifts and patterns within the cryptocurrency space, some really interesting signs of optimism within crypto, but also some things outside of crypto that could provide really solid opportunity for adoption as well as market growth. So I don't want to push it off any longer. I want to dive right into it and really show you guys why I believe these three different macro trends are important to understand. The first one's going to take up a decent amount of time because it's something outside of the cryptocurrency space. It has to do with traditional currency markets, and that is the emerging market currency crisis. So you guys have probably heard one way or another that a few countries around the world are starting to struggle with their fiat currency and the value of that currency compared to other currencies or commodities or everyday goods that we buy from the store. We've been talking about this on the daily update. It's something that's very fascinating for someone like myself who really likes to get a big picture view. And I think it's a very, very fascinating thing to focus on. We'll talk about why it's important that the cryptocurrency ecosystem focus on this. But you've heard some of these stories. You've heard about what's going on in Venezuela, the serious hyperinflation that the currency is experiencing, to where now businesses can't even produce properly or stores can't even distribute goods and services because there's no stable currency rate. And we can see that there's entire stores with shelves that are completely empty, that have barely any products to sell. And where I think I saw a recent diagram or photo that there was a stack of money taller than a roll of toilet paper in order to purchase that toilet paper. So you can see that the money has become practically worthless. And when you don't have a means of exchange to transact, it can be very rough to even do simple basic commerce in any given economy, especially a developed economy that becomes so interdependent on the means of exchange of currency. And we can see this is not just in Venezuela. We talked about this recently on our daily update a while back, and I tweeted about this. If you guys haven't, please follow me at Nicholas_Merton. I post a lot of really interesting diagrams like this when I find them. But we can see we haven't even entered into a recession here, and we have a majority, a serious rate of volatility here in regards to emerging market currencies, back to previous levels we've seen back in 2003, as well as going towards 2009. So without a recession, this is really concerning to see that we're already at this range of volatility. And if U.S. markets or global markets in general start to tank even lower, this rate could go higher. It could go to historical highs over the past few decades. And it's very, very important to note. I mean, we're not just dealing with Venezuela here. We have to understand that the Turkish lira, for example, is also going through a currency crisis. And many people think it can continue to get worse over the next few weeks due to the fact that Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey's government, has actually dictated monetary policy as a reason. He's taken full control, and he's resisted to raise interest rates, which has led away to runaway inflation, as well as borrowing way too much credit for a variety of government-based projects. And we can see as well this is happening in Argentina, another emerging market. We can see that this is also going amongst the lines of one nation. It's going across a variety of nations, and it's echoing off of the same exact issue, that fiat currencies run under the same flaws. They run under the same rules. They might have different labels or work under different economies that might be stronger or less stronger than others, but they still operate under the same rules of central authoritators managing their monetary policy, managing the interest rate, the rate at which it's going to cost to borrow new capital, as well as the currency supply. And we can see time and time again that these flaws eventually show up, and they're also eventually led to their symptoms through the mismanagement of central authoritators. And because of this, if you don't believe that this is really a big issue, we can see here that since back in 2007, before we hit the global recession, even not even being this isn't inflation adjusted here, we can see that we haven't been able to break towards the highs we saw back in 2007 in emerging markets. This is an emerging market index here, the MSCI Emerging Market ETF, and we have not been able to break up to those highs. And again, we haven't adjusted for US dollar inflation here. This means that emerging markets are well away from their highs that they were back in 2007. So we haven't seen growth in these markets, and it shows you how valuable a proper currency is, a sound form of money is in regards to its economy. Now, I know I've done a lot of rambling on here. You guys might already kind of get the value of having a stable currency. I have no doubt that you already do. But I want to spend some time to talk about how history repeats itself here. We know about many of those who have studied financial markets throughout history know about the hyperinflation in Germany in the 1920s and a variety of other fiat currencies that have gone through the same exact thing. I want to keep drilling that this is historical waves of currency crisis that come, or currency crises that come throughout time. And we can see this is a post from the Cato Institute, a PDF that shows a good list of around 52 historical accounts of hyperinflation. And we can see here a lot of these are well-respected economies and countries that no one would have questioned could ever go into a currency crisis or into serious economic collapse. But history tends to repeat itself. And again, when we take a look at these macro trends, we have it from time to time that we have these massive waves like in the 1980s and 1990s where we saw a ton of currencies go through hyperinflation. We're on the cusp of another big one. Argentina, Turkey, and Venezuela are just a select few, and they're going to keep on coming so long as there's mismanagement of monetary policy as well as geopolitical issues, and nothing to fix it. So, well, what could be coming in to save the day here? I believe that it is cryptocurrencies. Now, a lot of people will make the case before I dive into some of the really interesting stuff here. A lot of people will say that many people will just rebound to more stable currencies. They'll rebound to the dollar or the euro or the Japanese yen or Chinese yuan. But the fact of the matter is that these people have experienced something that we haven't experienced in traditional markets, whereas we might be comfortable with using these different currencies as we travel across the world. These people have experienced the mismanagement of currency. They understand the value of removing central authoritators. And though cryptocurrencies are quite volatile right now, which definitely will be quite a setback for mass adoption, in these circumstances, volatility appears like nothing to these individuals because they've seen their dollar depreciate at rapid double-digit rates on any given month. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, whether it's going up 10% or down 7%, whatever it may be, to them, it's nothing. It's understandable for cryptocurrencies to move like that towards these individuals. They understand that these currencies remove central authoritators and also tend to see values rise over the longer term. And we can start to see that merchants as well as consumers are starting to adopt cryptocurrencies. Take a look at this story here. I think Dash is a perfect example. And they're very smart to move in here. And this is what I'm going to emphasize later on, is to make sure to take upon this opportunity to help spread the word of crypto, to show these people crypto. And we can see here that just in the last week alone, 94 new Venezuelan merchants have adopted Dash, have come on to discoverdash.com as a merchant who accepts Dash for payments. And this is practically double the rate of what we saw for the previous week, where we saw around 50 merchants per week continuously for the past few weeks and months and over the past year. So we can see that this trend isn't dying. You can go to the website, you can see these merchants starting to pop on the map on a daily basis. It's really fascinating. And we can see that because of this, I mean, this isn't just, some small trend here. For Dash alone, this is the second biggest market for Dash on the global stage, Venezuela, out of all places. So we can see that people are actually using these cryptocurrencies. Merchants are happy to accept these currencies because now they at least have a means of exchange. They have a means where they don't have to trust third parties in a relatively trustless manner through the Dash network. They're allowed to simply store their value and exchange it for commerce. And that's a really fascinating thing to see actual real adoption in markets that need cryptocurrencies. So my point here is that I want you all to make sure that you're focusing in on this. It's a fascinating thing to keep up on if you're into financial markets like I am. I'm a huge nerd for it. But I mean, this is something that's really important for the adoption of cryptocurrencies. Whether you're a big fan of one cryptocurrency project or a variety, look for those out there who are doing, committing efforts to try to spread their cryptocurrency to these markets to get real adoption so they can grow long term. And along with that, if you're a part of a massive cryptocurrency ecosystem, promote policies and ideas that would help do stuff like this to actually help uplift people and get people using your currency and get the market larger. You have an investment incentive to do that as well as a moral incentive to do it if you really believe in the message of cryptocurrencies. So I'm really excited to see players like Dash, NANO, which we'll talk a little bit about later as well, a lot of these peer-to-peer digital currencies coming in and really helping to bring some stability to these markets and providing a means of exchange for these markets. There's a lot of opportunity opportunity that's going to come from this, but along with that as well, there's a lot of opportunity for you to leave a lasting impact as an individual. It only takes a few groups of people, a small group of people, to change the world. So anyways, that's the big macro piece that I want to talk about. There's two other pieces though that are going to be more kind of short, sweet, and to the point here. And I want to talk about the shift in regards to cryptocurrencies that I'm seeing, one of the major shifts that I'm seeing, and that is a switch from utility and security token talk to peer-to-peer digital currencies. Now, we've been talking about all this stuff going on in Venezuela, Argentina, other emerging markets, where we've been seeing actual peer-to-peer digital currency come to the forefront, an opportunity for people to make a means of exchange without trusting third parties or central banks or governments to manage their monetary policy. Currencies that are free from these restrictions. And I've always talked about it on my channel, and I think it's going to become more and more relevant in crypto markets. It's something that I see coming around the horizon, and that is that we're going to see a lot of the corporate side of blockchain and cryptocurrencies really start to tether out. A lot of these utility tokens and even some of the protocols going away over the next few years and really never coming back. They're going to slowly dwindle away. They don't flash crash. It's a slow loss of hope and realization over time that a lot of these utility tokens don't have much value. And you kind of hit a paradigm here because if you're talking about a lot of these ICOs, many people have deemed ICOs as securities, even though they might have ran as utility tokens. But you hit a really you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If you're a utility token, in many cases, you don't have much utility, you don't have much benefits, and you surely don't have any rights over the assets or the technology. You just have simply a token tied towards a utility function within the platform. In many cases, these tokens are still ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum blockchain with no serious value proposition. It's a fact. A lot of these ICOs have failed, guys. As we've been talking about, we try to avoid ICOs on the channel here. They're very risky, and because of that, you have that side that's definitely an issue. You might be holding something with no value, and if it's a security token, as a retail investor, you might not be able to have that security token. You might not be able to invest in that security, or it might have to go through a proper exchange, and there might be a lot of issues for those projects, which is going to cost a lot of money and deal with a lot of legal issues as well. So I think that we're going to see, because it's hard for exchanges to list these currencies because they're possibly securities, and along with that as well, the value proposition, if they are utility tokens, I think we're going to see a massive shift towards peer-to-peer digital currencies. And I can tell you all, as I've looked across the market over the past few weeks, the only things that are keeping up with Bitcoin or doing slightly better outside of a few random scattered players in the protocol or utility space is really peer-to-peer digital currency plays. I can take a look here. For example, NANO right here at the top. I've been talking a lot about NANO, and I don't want to shill it. I love the project. I love the ecosystem. They're doing work in Venezuela. You can see that a lot of these are either currencies or major protocol plays. And people are going towards the value proposition where they're hoping to get more well-developed projects as well as those that can be used as a value means of exchange across the world. I think that you're going to see this more and more. You're going to see it in privacy coins like Pivx. You're going to see it across the board in a lot of well-known players. Now, again, I don't want to just look at the 24-hour chart here. You'll generally see the trend here. We've been talking about a lot of the privacy coins like Monero as well that's been holding well on its support. There's a lot of currencies that are showing technical support and momentum comparative to Bitcoin, even in this market where alts are either kind of stagnant or going lower comparative to Bitcoin as Bitcoin's gained dominance. I think that currency plays are the key thing here. It's the killer app. So many people talk. I joked about this with a guy named Miko Matsumura at one of the conferences. Genuine great guy, and he said something that was so true. Is that we always go to these conferences, and it's very corporate surrounded. There's so much corporations there, and people who come from the kind of Fortune 500 world, where they're like, we're looking for the killer application of blockchain. The killer application is money, folks. It's having sound currency, and that's the case here that I stand by. I think over the next year, it's going to become more apparent. Currencies don't have an issue listing on exchanges because they're not securities. And along with that as well, as we start to see more countries needing cryptocurrencies, there will be more fiat gateways opened up for these cryptocurrencies. And it's going to be really, really exciting to see people being able to get access to this and use it in everyday commerce, switching out of their devalued traditional fiat currency. So the third thing I want to talk about here is another relatively optimistic trend here, but at the same time, something that doesn't exactly mean markets are just going to go rising up tomorrow. And that is the trend in the OTC space. So as you all know, I've been keeping up with the OTC market for quite some time. I actually did a speech on it at the Pillar On conference. If you guys want to watch that video, I might be able to leave it linked down below, or it's on my channel if you look up anything with my name in OTC. But I want to spend some time to talk about the general changes that we're seeing in OTC markets at the moment. As we go down towards the $6,000 range, we're starting to hear very, very optimistic signs on the buy side. Now, there have been a few people coming in more towards the sell side of recent, and that's been because of more on the altcoin side, on Ethereum and a few of the other large cap altcoins. But on the Bitcoin side of things, for the past few months, I've been on a general consensus from the people I'm connected to in the OTC space, as well as those who work directly in it, that there has been more buyers than sellers, that there is a shortage on the sell side, that they cannot find enough Bitcoin to fill their buy orders at these prices. Now, I can assure you that there's some investors who are probably waiting, just like some are on the retail side, for $4,000 or $5,000. The fact of the matter is, though, is that when you're playing with some of these larger whales and there's a limited supply, people are willing to pay a higher bid on the OTC market. And again, I can't provide you specific details, guys. This is private information and stuff that I can't dive into in regards to names and how much they're buying. Let's just say there's a lot going on in the OTC space. There's a lot of optimism around the 6K range. And we can see over the past few months that we've been holding here, it really is pretty much just to close on the parabolic run-up that we had back in December and January. Outside of that, we've been able to solidify the gains from back in November all the way to the early parts of 2017. So long as we continue to have this optimism in OTC markets, it's going to be very difficult to see Bitcoin go to 4,000 or 5,000 unless there's some negative catalyst that comes in, whether it be more crackdown from governments on cryptocurrencies, or some issues with Tether or something like that. I don't really know what it could be, or maybe a continued rejection of ETFs or postponing. I don't know. Fact of the matter is, OTC markets are looking very, very good, and I'll try to keep you all up to date on this. But it really hasn't changed too much. We've just continued to see more buy side actors coming into the place, and the sell side is relatively thin because there's very select people who are early adopters and miners in cryptocurrencies, as well as some of the larger Chinese miners and investors in cryptocurrencies over the past few years. That's who's really selling. But the question is, are we going to see a change in that trend? I don't think so. I don't think so. As the price goes up, we tend to see, again, if we take a look here on weekly volume, I would like to say that institutions always think different from retail investors, but we see that as price goes up, interest goes up, volume goes up, and even as price is moving up, we see the same amount, if not higher amounts, of Bitcoin being traded, which means that there's more capital trading going on, which means more buyers and more sellers. And I think that we're going to see that in OTC markets as well. If the demand is already high now, I don't think we're going to see much of a decline in the buy side action. So I want to hear what you all think about all these things. The emerging market currency crisis, the switch from trends being in utility tokens and security tokens to really the killer app, which is peer-to-peer digital currency, and then also the OTC space. If you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments down below. But I hope you all found a lot of value in this. I hope you keep a sharp eye on these things. And let me know if there's another macro trend that I missed. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm always down to learn from a different perspective. But until the next video, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Trade safe, stay smart, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.